The lights dim, and the sound of sneakers squeaking on polished hardwood echoes faintly in the distance. The camera pans slowly across the empty court of the Great Western Forum, home of legends, where banners hang like eternal guardians of history. In the center, a spotlight falls upon the painted floor. A voice rises, steady and commanding, carrying the weight of destiny. Some men are born to play the game. Some men are born to change it. And there, in that blinding glow, stands a figure larger than life. A smile wide enough to light up the darkest arena. Eyes fierce with an unshakable belief, and a presence that turns doubt into faith. This is not just a basketball player. This is a leader, a magician, a showman, and a warrior rolled into one. His name is Earvin Johnson, Jr., but the world would know him by another name, Magic. Long before the championships, the parades down Figueroa Street, the Hollywood lights, or the roar of 17,000 fans chanting MVP, there was a boy from Lansing, Michigan, who carried a basketball like it was an extension of his soul. The crack of the dribble against the asphalt was his heartbeat, the swish of the net his lullaby. On mornings when the frost bit the air and his breath puffed in clouds, he would shovel snow just to clear a patch of driveway, just to feel the ball roll off his fingertips again. In those moments, young Earvin wasn't just practicing. He was dreaming. Dreaming of a stage so big it could barely hold the brilliance he knew was inside him. Yet dreams alone are fragile things. For every bright-eyed kid who clutches a ball and whispers of greatness, the world waits with its tests, its heartbreaks, its ruthless reminders that talent alone is not enough. What set this boy apart wasn't only his gift for seeing passes no one else could see, for turning the game into poetry in motion. It was his spirit. A spirit that refused to be ordinary, a spirit that believed joy was as much a weapon as strength, and that the game of basketball could be more than competition. It could be a performance, a symphony, an art form. When Magic Johnson stepped onto the NBA court in 1979, the league was a storm of uncertainty, its future dimmed by doubt and shadows. But then came the smile. That unmistakable, infectious smile that told fans, something special is about to happen. From that moment, he wasn't just playing basketball. He was transforming it, pulling people from their seats, making them believe in magic. And yet, this story is not only about triumphs and titles. It is about battles fought in silence, about fear, about resilience in the face of devastation. It is about how a man who gave the world joy learned to confront its darkest nights and still walked out stronger, brighter. This is the story of a boy who became magic, of a leader who carried the Lakers on his back, of a champion who inspired millions far beyond the game. This is the life of Magic Johnson. The story begins not under the bright lights of Los Angeles, but in the heart of Lansing, Michigan, in the 1960s. The neighborhood was modest, streets lined with weathered houses and narrow sidewalks, where kids played until the sun dipped behind the horizon. In one of those homes, a tight-knit family lived with discipline, warmth, and faith as their guiding lights. Earvin Johnson Sr., a hardworking man who spent his days at the General Motors plant and his nights collecting trash to support his family, was a figure of unshakable endurance. Christine, Earvin's mother, brought balance to the household, a gentle but firm presence who raised her children with both kindness and strength. For young Earvin Jr., mornings often began before dawn, with the smell of breakfast drifting through the house and the sound of his father's boots hitting the floorboards. He would watch his father head out the door, knowing that each bead of sweat, every long hour, was a lesson. Nothing worthwhile comes easy. That lesson sank deep into him, and with a basketball in his hands, it became his compass. In Lansing, basketball wasn't just a sport. It was an escape, a language, a stage for dreams. Earvin found his sanctuary on the cracked playground courts, where chain nets clanged against rusted rims. The ball, orange and worn, slapped the pavement like a drumbeat to his imagination. He wasn't the tallest at first, nor the strongest, but there was something different about him. When other kids raced for points, he saw possibilities. Where others drove headfirst to the basket, he saw lanes of vision, invisible paths only he could trace. Passing, to him, was not just a move. It was a gift, a way of lifting the game beyond individual glory and making everyone on the court part of something greater. Even as a child, there was something magnetic about Earvin. His laughter filled the air. His smile, that famous smile, could break tension in an instant. Teachers noticed it. Teammates felt it. When he played, he wasn't just trying to win. He was trying to make the game beautiful, to make it feel alive. But it wasn't always easy. Lansing, like many cities in the late 60s, bore its share of division and hardship. Earvin learned early that the world could be unkind, that prejudice and struggle could weigh on a young black boy with big dreams. Sometimes, walking home after late-night games, he'd think about the limits others might try to place on him. And yet, every time, he'd tighten his grip on the ball, as though it whispered back, "Keep going. Your path is bigger than this street, bigger than this town." By the time he reached Everett High School, Earvin's presence on the court was undeniable. He was taller now, stronger. But what set him apart was vision. Eyes that seemed to see 2 steps ahead, hands that turned impossible passes into magic tricks. Crowds began to gather just to witness him play. They didn't know exactly what they were watching, but they knew it was special. And it was during one of those games, after a jaw-dropping triple-double performance, that a local sports writer gave him the nickname that would define him forever: Magic. Earvin Johnson Jr. had become Magic Johnson, and Lansing, Michigan, though far from the glitz of Los Angeles, had just given birth to a legend. High school gyms aren't supposed to feel like theaters. They're supposed to echo with the sound of wooden bleachers creaking, sneakers sliding, cheerleaders shouting encouragement into the din of teenage chaos. But when Magic Johnson played at Everett High School, those gyms transformed. The lights seemed brighter, the air heavier, and the noise, it was electric, every dribble. And no look past drawing gasps, as though the crowd couldn't quite believe what they were seeing. Magic didn't just score points. He orchestrated the game. One moment he'd drive hard to the hoop, defenders collapsing on him like a wave crashing against a rock. Just as the crowd prepared for a layup, he'd whip a pass behind his back, spinning it into the hands of a wide-open teammate. Easy bucket. The crowd would erupt. And then that smile. The one that said he wasn't just playing basketball, he was enjoying it, sharing it with everyone lucky enough to be watching. But his dominance wasn't just a show. Magic led Everett High to the 1977 state championship, lifting the trophy as though he'd been destined for it since the day he picked up a ball. By then, his name wasn't just whispered around Lansing. It was spreading across Michigan, across the nation. Colleges lined up, desperate to sign him. He could have gone anywhere. But deep down, Earvin Johnson Jr. was still a family man, a son of Lansing, and Michigan State University was just down the road. When he committed, it felt like the whole city stood behind him. East Lansing in the late 1970s wasn't ready for the storm that was about to hit. Magic arrived at Michigan State not just as a recruit, but as a force of nature. The campus buzzed with energy. Students packed Jennison Fieldhouse long before tip-off, their voices rising in unison every time he touched the ball. Magic, still barely out of his teens, became a symbol of hope, a beacon of possibility. His passing dazzled, his rebounding surprised, his leadership inspired. But it was his joy, pure, unfiltered, contagious joy, that made every game an event. By his sophomore year, the Spartans were rolling, and standing in their way was a legend in the making from a small school in Indiana, Larry Bird. The country didn't know it yet, but the rivalry between these two men would shape the future of basketball itself. March 26, 1979, Salt Lake City, the NCAA championship, the Michigan State Spartans versus the Indiana State Sycamores. More than 40 million people tuned in to watch, the largest audience to ever witness a college basketball game. On one side, Larry Bird, stoic, efficient, a scoring machine. On the other, Magic Johnson, smiling, flamboyant, a conductor of chaos. From the opening tip, Magic took control. He flew across the court, pushing the pace, feeding his teammates, slicing through defenders like he was born for this stage. The Spartans surged ahead, their confidence swelling with every play. Bird fought valiantly, but on that night, the magic was too much. Michigan State triumphed, 75-64, and Magic Johnson was crowned the tournament's most outstanding player. As confetti rained down and cameras flashed, the world saw more than just a college star. They saw the birth of a rivalry, a preview of battles yet to come, and the spark of something greater. Magic wasn't just stepping into the NBA, he was stepping into destiny. That night in Salt Lake City, with the world watching, Earvin "Magic" Johnson had taken his first giant leap toward changing basketball forever. The summer of 1979 was filled with anticipation. The NBA, at that time, wasn't the giant it is today. The league was struggling with image issues, television ratings sagging, arenas not always packed. But in Los Angeles, there was a plan brewing, a vision. Dr. Jerry Buss, the charismatic new owner of the Lakers, wanted basketball to be more than a game. He wanted Showtime. And who better to embody that than the smiling 6'9" point guard who had just lit up the NCAA championship? When the Lakers selected Magic Johnson with the first overall pick in the 1979 NBA draft, it felt like fate. Los Angeles, the city of lights, movies, glamour, and dreams, was about to meet its perfect star. From the moment Magic stepped onto the floor in purple and gold, something shifted. His energy was infectious, his passes electric. He wasn't just a rookie, he was an entertainer. Crowds began to fill the Forum, not just to watch basketball, but to be part of a spectacle. The Lakers ran the floor like a fast-break symphony, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar towering in the middle, Norm Nixon slicing through defenses, Jamal Wilkes gliding with elegance. And conducting it all? Magic, flashing that grin as if to say, "Sit back, because this is going to be fun." But for all the flash, there was substance. Magic averaged 18 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 7.3 assists in his rookie season. Numbers that would be remarkable for a seasoned veteran, let alone a 20-year-old kid. His presence ignited the Lakers, and suddenly, the team found itself storming into the NBA Finals. Then came the moment that would define him. Game 5 of the Finals against the Philadelphia 76ers. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the Lakers' anchor and Finals MVP frontrunner, went down with a devastating ankle injury. The series was tied 2-2. Conventional wisdom said the Lakers were finished. No Kareem meant no chance. But Magic Johnson didn't believe in conventional wisdom. On May 16, 1980, the rookie did the unthinkable. As the team prepared to fly to Philadelphia, Magic boarded the plane with Kareem's jersey tucked in his bag. He sat in his seat, headphones on, but his mind racing. He thought of Lansing, of Michigan State, of every moment that had led him here, and he whispered to himself, "I've got this. I'll play center if I have to. We're not losing." When tip-off came, the basketball world watched in disbelief. Magic Johnson, the point guard, lined up at center. Then he slid to forward. Then to guard. He played every position on the floor that night. He rebounded like a giant, ran the floor like a sprinter, dished passes with flair, and scored with fearless aggression. The rookie dominated, scoring 42 points, grabbing 15 rebounds, and handing out 7 assists. He played with a joy that seemed almost unfair, smiling as he dismantled the Sixers on their own court. The Lakers won the game, won the championship, and won the beginning of a new era. Magic Johnson, a 20-year-old rookie, had been named Finals MVP. In the locker room, as champagne sprayed and reporters swarmed, Magic sat for a moment, towel draped around his shoulders, that signature grin plastered across his face. He thought about what had just happened, about stepping into Kareem's role, about carrying his team, about defying every doubt. And he laughed, because deep down, he had always known. This was his destiny. That night wasn't just the birth of a champion. It was the beginning of Showtime, a revolution that would captivate the world, with Magic at its center. The 1980 championship wasn't just a victory, it was a signal. The NBA had found its spark, and that spark's name was Magic Johnson. But sparks need fuel, and in Los Angeles, the Showtime Lakers had all the ingredients. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, still a towering force in the paint. Jamal Wilkes, smooth and steady. Norm Nixon, explosive in the backcourt. And on the sidelines, head coach Paul Westhead at first. Then later, the fiery Pat Riley, a man whose slicked-back hair and sharp suits would become as iconic as the team he led. Together, they weren't just a basketball team. They were an experience. The Great Western Forum became a theater. Celebrities lined the front row, Jack Nicholson with his sunglasses, Hollywood stars clapping along with every highlight. The music of the Lakers' fast break was jazz, chaos turned into rhythm, ball movement flowing like a song only Magic could hear. When he dribbled up the court, the entire arena leaned forward, waiting for the unexpected. A no-look pass through 3 defenders, a lob arcing into Kareem's hands, a behind-the-back dish to a cutting worthy. The crowd didn't just cheer. They gasped, laughed, roared. Showtime wasn't just about winning games, it was about making them unforgettable. But for every hero, there must be a rival, and Magic's came wrapped in green and white. Larry Bird. They had met in 1979 in that NCAA final. Bird's Indiana State against Magic's Michigan State. A duel that drew record numbers and tilted the balance toward Magic. But now, in the NBA, their rivalry had found its true stage. Bird, with his stoic glare and deadly shooting, led the Boston Celtics, a franchise drenched in tradition and banners. Magic, with his beaming smile and dazzling passes, carried the Lakers, the franchise of Hollywood glitz and spectacle. East versus West, blue-collar grit versus West Coast flair. Every time they faced off, the world tuned in. The 1984 NBA Finals were a war. Bird's Celtics versus Magic's Lakers. It was brutal, physical, and unrelenting. Boston outmuscled Los Angeles, stealing the series in 7 games. For Magic, it was pain, the kind that lingered in the locker room, the kind that kept him awake at night replaying every mistake. The press called him Tragic Johnson after costly turnovers. That smile for once dimmed, but champions are forged in fire, and Magic promised himself, and his team, it wouldn't happen again. The very next year, 1985, the Lakers and Celtics met again. This time, Magic was relentless. He controlled the pace, picked apart Boston's defense, and lifted his team to victory. For the first time in history, the Lakers defeated the Celtics in the NBA Finals. The Forum erupted, and Magic stood at the center of it all, soaking in the roar, knowing redemption had been earned. The rivalry pushed both men higher. Bird admitted later that Magic made him better, that without Magic, he wouldn't have reached his full greatness. And Magic, in turn, knew Bird's presence kept his fire burning. Together, they didn't just dominate, they saved the NBA. Television ratings soared. Fans who had once turned away from the league came back in droves. The game wasn't just basketball anymore. It was a spectacle, a cultural movement. And through it all, Magic thrived. Championships piled up. In 1987, perhaps his finest moment, the Lakers faced the Celtics once again. With seconds left in Game 4, the Lakers trailing, Magic took the inbounds pass. He drove into the lane, leaped, and, with Kareem's defender closing in, lofted a baby skyhook, a shot that hung in the air like fate itself. Swish! The Forum exploded. Magic pumped his fist, his smile wide as the world. That moment wasn't just a game winner. It was a declaration. The Lakers belong on top. By the end of the decade, Magic had led the Lakers to 5 championships. He had become a 3-time Finals MVP, a 3-time League MVP, and the undeniable leader of Showtime. But more than the accolades, more than the banners hanging from the rafters, was the joy he brought to the game. He made basketball fun. He made it feel like a celebration of life itself. Yet, as the 80s roared on and Magic stood as the face of the NBA, storms quietly brewed on the horizon. Challenges far greater than any opponent in green or any finals series could bring. By the end of the 1980s, Magic Johnson was more than just a basketball player. He was the face of the NBA, a global icon. The Lakers were the kings of Showtime. The Forum was a cathedral of joy, and Magic's smile was everywhere. Commercials, endorsements, magazine covers. He had built a legacy on leadership, brilliance, and charisma. Yet, even the brightest lights eventually face shadows. The 1990 season was different. The Lakers, still strong, were showing cracks. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had retired in 1989, leaving a hole in the heart of Showtime. James Worthy battled injuries, and the NBA itself was evolving. Younger stars were rising. Michael Jordan in Chicago, Clyde Drexler in Portland, Charles Barkley in Philadelphia. The league was shifting, and though Magic remained at the top of his game, the landscape was no longer the same. Then, in 1991, Magic and the Lakers made one last push for glory. They stormed through the Western Conference, defying critics who claimed their dynasty was over. In the finals, they faced Jordan and the Bulls, a team hungry to claim the throne. For the first time, Showtime wasn't enough. The Bulls, led by Jordan's relentless drive, overwhelmed the Lakers in 5 games. As the final buzzer sounded, Magic stood on the court, sweat dripping, hands on his knees. For years, he had been the unstoppable force. Now he could feel the winds of change. But what was coming next? No one could have imagined. November 7th, 1991. A date seared into basketball history. The press room in Los Angeles was packed, reporters shoulder to shoulder, cameras pointed toward the podium. Magic Johnson stepped up to the microphone, a hush falling over the crowd. His smile was there, but behind it, something heavier. He cleared his throat, steadied himself, and spoke words that sent shockwaves around the world. Because of the HIV virus that I have obtained, I will have to retire from the Lakers today. The silence was deafening. Gasps filled the room. Some reporters dropped their pens, others froze in disbelief. HIV? In 1991, those three letters were synonymous with fear, with stigma, with death. Many believed it was a death sentence. And yet, there stood Magic Johnson, healthy-looking, strong, still only 32 years old, telling the world that his life had changed forever. For a moment, it seemed like everything might crumble. The world mourned, fans wept, teammates were stunned. Some opponents, caught in the ignorance of the era, wondered if playing against him had put them at risk. The fear was real. The stigma was brutal. But Magic? Magic stood tall. "I will fight this," he told the world, his smile breaking through the storm. "And I will live. I plan to be around for a long time." That moment, that courage, changed everything. Instead of hiding, instead of letting shame bury him, Magic became a voice, a beacon. He shattered the myths surrounding HIV, bringing awareness to millions who had only known fear. He proved that HIV did not mean the end, that you could live with strength, dignity, and purpose. He took a disease that had been shrouded in silence and forced the world to confront it with humanity. And he didn't stop. Just months after his announcement, he returned to the court for the 1992 NBA All-Star Game. The crowd roared as he took the floor. Teammates embraced him, opponents cheered him. And in the final moments, with the game winding down, Magic drained a three-pointer over his friend and rival Isaiah Thomas, then another over Michael Jordan. The clock expired, the players mobbed him, and the arena shook with love. Magic Johnson, smiling brighter than ever, stood in the middle of it all, living proof of resilience. That game wasn't just basketball. It was a statement, a declaration that life doesn't end when challenges appear, that adversity can become a platform for greatness. And then came Barcelona, the 1992 Olympics, the Dream Team. Magic joined forces with Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, and the greatest assembly of talent the sport had ever seen. The world watched as the U.S. team dominated, but the real story was deeper. There was Magic Johnson, the man who had just been told his career was over. The man living with a virus so many feared. Playing with joy, with courage, with the world cheering him on. In every no-look pass, every grin, every embrace with his teammates, there was a message. I am still here. I am still Magic. The 90s would not bring more championships on the court, but they would bring something greater. The transformation of Magic Johnson from athlete to activist, from superstar to symbol of hope. By the end of the 1980s, Magic Johnson was more than just a basketball player. He was the face of the NBA, a global icon. The Lakers were the kings of Showtime, the Forum was a cathedral of joy, and Magic's smile was everywhere. Commercials, endorsements, magazine covers. He had built a legacy on leadership, brilliance, and charisma. Yet, even the brightest lights eventually face shadows. The 1990 season was different. The Lakers, still strong, were showing cracks. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had retired in 1989, leaving a hole in the heart of Showtime. James Worthy battled injuries, and the NBA itself was evolving. Younger stars were rising. Michael Jordan in Chicago, Clyde Drexler in Portland, Charles Barkley in Philadelphia. The league was shifting, and though Magic remained at the top of his game, the landscape was no longer the same. Then, in 1991, Magic and the Lakers made one last push for glory. They stormed through the Western Conference, defying critics who claimed their dynasty was over. In the finals, they faced Jordan and the Bulls, a team hungry to claim the throne. For the first time, Showtime wasn't enough. The Bulls, led by Jordan's relentless drive, overwhelmed the Lakers in 5 games. As the final buzzer sounded, Magic stood on the court, sweat dripping, hands on his knees. For years, he had been the unstoppable force. Now he could feel the winds of change. But what was coming next? No one could have imagined. November 7th, 1991. A date seared into basketball history. The press room in Los Angeles was packed, reporters shoulder to shoulder, cameras pointed toward the podium. Magic Johnson stepped up to the microphone, a hush falling over the crowd. His smile was there, but behind it, something heavier. He cleared his throat, steadied himself, and spoke words that sent shockwaves around the world. Because of the HIV virus that I have obtained, I will have to retire from the Lakers today. The silence was deafening. Gasps filled the room. Some reporters dropped their pens, others froze in disbelief. HIV? In 1991, those 3 letters were synonymous with fear, with stigma, with death. Many believed it was a death sentence. And yet, there stood Magic Johnson, healthy-looking, strong, still only 32 years old, telling the world that his life had changed forever. For a moment, it seemed like everything might crumble. The world mourned, fans wept, teammates were stunned. Some opponents, caught in the ignorance of the era, wondered if playing against him had put them at risk. The fear was real. The stigma was brutal. But Magic? Magic stood tall. "I will fight this," he told the world, his smile breaking through the storm. "And I will live. I plan to be around for a long time." That moment, that courage, changed everything. Instead of hiding, instead of letting shame bury him, Magic became a voice, a beacon. He shattered the myths surrounding HIV, bringing awareness to millions who had only known fear. He proved that HIV did not mean the end, that you could live with strength, dignity, and purpose. He took a disease that had been shrouded in silence and forced the world to confront it with humanity. And he didn't stop. Just months after his announcement, he returned to the court for the 1992 NBA All-Star Game. The crowd roared as he took the floor. Teammates embraced him, opponents cheered him. And in the final moments, with the game winding down, Magic drained a 3-pointer over his friend and rival Isaiah Thomas, then another over Michael Jordan. The clock expired, the players mobbed him, and the arena shook with love. Magic Johnson, smiling brighter than ever, stood in the middle of it all, living proof of resilience. That game wasn't just basketball. It was a statement, a declaration that life doesn't end when challenges appear, that adversity can become a platform for greatness. And then came Barcelona, the 1992 Olympics, the Dream Team. Magic joined forces with Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, and the greatest assembly of talent the sport had ever seen. The world watched as the U.S. team dominated, but the real story was deeper. There was Magic Johnson, the man who had just been told his career was over, the man living with a virus so many feared, playing with joy, with courage, with the world cheering him on. In every no-look pass, every grin, every embrace with his teammates, there was a message. I am still here. I am still Magic. The 90s would not bring more championships on the court, but they would bring something greater. The transformation of Magic Johnson from athlete to activist, from superstar to symbol of hope. There are legends whose greatness is measured in numbers. Points scored, trophies lifted, banners raised. And then there are those whose greatness is measured in something far deeper, in the lives they touch, in the hope they inspire, in the way they change the world long after the final whistle. Magic Johnson belongs to both. 5 championships, 3 league MVPs, 12 All-Star appearances. Endless highlights that play in the minds of fans like old songs that never lose their melody. But when the dust of his career settled, when the cheers of the Forum became echoes, it wasn't just the rings or the records that defined him. It was the way he played, the way he smiled, the way he made basketball feel like joy, like freedom, like something larger than life. On the court, Magic Johnson was a magician, yes, but more importantly, he was a leader. He lifted teammates higher, turned games into symphonies, and taught the world that passing could be as beautiful as scoring. His rivalry with Larry Bird not only shaped a generation of basketball, but saved the league itself, drawing millions back to the game and building the foundation for the global NBA we know today. But perhaps his greatest legacy came after he walked away from the game. Faced with fear, with stigma, with a diagnosis that at the time was considered a death sentence, he stood tall. He didn't hide. He didn't surrender. He looked the world in the eye and smiled. "I will live," he said. And live he did. Magic turned tragedy into triumph. He used his platform to educate, to advocate, to break down walls of ignorance. He became living proof that HIV did not mean the end. It could mean a new beginning. He inspired millions who had felt invisible, showing them that they too could fight, could dream, could thrive. And beyond that, he became one of the most successful black businessmen in America, investing in communities long overlooked, bringing opportunity and pride where it had been absent for decades. From Lansing to Los Angeles, from Showtime to boardrooms, from hardwood to humanity. Magic Johnson's story is not just about basketball. It is about courage. It is about vision. It is about never letting fear dictate the way you live. And even now, when you see him, courtside at a Lakers game, or celebrating a Dodgers win, or smiling through another interview, you see it. That same spark, that same joy, that same belief that life is meant to be lived fully, fearlessly, beautifully. Magic Johnson reminds us all of something vital. Greatness isn't just about what you achieve. It's about how you inspire others to believe they can achieve too. So when you face your own challenges, when the odds seem stacked against you, when the world tells you it cannot be done, remember the boy from Lansing who dreamed with a basketball, the man who smiled in the face of fear, and the legend who proved that with vision, faith, and joy, you can change the game, and maybe even the world. This has been the story of Earvin Magic Johnson, a champion, a leader, a visionary, a man who showed us that sometimes the real magic isn't on the court, it's in the way you live your life. And now, I'll leave you with this. If this story inspired you, if Magic's journey reminded you of the strength within yourself, then don't let it stop here. Carry it forward. Share it. Let it light someone else's path. This is Behind the Medal. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because together, we'll keep telling the stories of those who prove that greatness lives not just in victory, but in the fight, in the heart, and in the magic we bring to the world.